Hi everyone, I'm Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary. Welcome to our Thursday video for February 2nd, 2023. I bet you thought since I'm holding the Cornsnake, I was going to say welcome to this episode of Cornsnake Corral, because that is one of the videos that we do on Thursdays. I now try to do a variety of different videos on Thursdays. Cornsnake Corral, Royals at the Ranch, and Species Center Stage. Tonight, I have several snakes of different species that voluntarily came out of their enclosures. And in fact, I have 5 or 6 snakes out right now. So I thought for this week, even though I have a long list of videos by request and that I've thought of myself that I need to get through, I just wanted to do one for fun this Thursday and show you some of the great snakes that are confident and engaging and explorative, and that are generally my regulars that ask to come out. As you know, we have about 115 snakes here, and if it seems like you're always seeing the same ones over and over, that's because I don't force the snakes to come out unless it's an emergency, they need to go to the vet, or there's really some exigent need for me to force them out. The ones that you see in the videos are the ones that just come out on their own, that I don't have to take out, that I can open their doors and they'll see the doors open and they will come out, or they're already at their door trying to get out and all I have to do is open it and the snake comes right on out. And this is one of those. This is Normal. He is a corn snake, Pantherophis guttatus, and he came from Port City Pet. He was produced by Joe Phelan. And he is named Normal because he's a normal wild type corn snake. And I love him. I have no idea why people breed so many different morphs when the normal corn snake looks like this. He is my absolutely favorite looking corn snake. I just don't think that you can beat the orange and black. And in fact, most of my corn snakes are orange and black. I mean, I have some that people have sent to me that are different morphs from the wild type, but this is my absolute favorite. So Normal is 4 years old now, going on 4 years old this year. He's always been outgoing. I actually haven't done anything special to make him an outreach animal, to make him an educational program animal, or to build his confidence. I've just let him be him and allowed him to show me what he wants to do in life. And he wants out a lot. And he's just always been super relaxed, interacting with people, and very outgoing about interacting with the environment as a whole. Is that normal for all corn snakes? No, it really isn't. He is just an exceptional corn snake. I would say he's an outlier. Because while there are some corn snakes that are super, super shy and flighty and fearful and hide all the time, most corn snakes, I would say, are somewhere in the middle. They're not necessarily going to want to come out and interact with you constantly. They may not even want to come out, but they're going to be visible and active in their enclosures if you provide them lots of things to do in order to express their natural behaviors. But Normal has just never been fearful. He's never been a hider. He's just always been one that will just come right out and engage, whether it is with people or just with his environment. And so I wanted to share him with you. And now I'm going to put him in an activity area so that he can explore and exercise and kind of do what he wants. And I'll go find one of the other snakes that's out and we'll take a look at them. Okay, I didn't really have to go far, and I didn't even have to move the tripod or move to another room or another location, because right next door to where I was standing here talking, Castiana wanted out of her enclosure. Castiana is one of my inland carpet pythons. She is 4 years old, but she will be 5 years old this year. And she was produced by Justin Julander at Australian Addiction Reptiles, one of the authors of the Complete Carpet Python. And it is a species of carpet python. So it's an inland carpet python, Morelia spilota metcalfi. They are probably my second favorite snake species in the world, with Morelia bredli being my absolute favorite. I really like inland carpet pythons, and they aren't gonna just sort of hang out with you. They're an active snake. They're very confident. They like to roam around and they're pretty independent. They're not going to be difficult to handle, but they aren't just going to hang out and sit with you and watch a feature film or anything. They want to do their own thing and they want to go their own way, as you can see. There's no problem with them coming right out of their enclosure. She came right out of her enclosure, right onto my hands, but she doesn't want to sit and hang out with me. She wants to go and explore the room and do her own thing and just enjoy the freedom of being out of her habitat. So I'm going to go ahead and let her do that, and we'll see who else is out and about. No, this is not the same snake. This is one of my other inland carpet pythons. This is Vagonbrei, and he is a clutch mate to Castiana. So he's also 4 years old. He's going to turn 5 years old this year. And they are siblings from the same clutch. So, of course, he also came from Justin over at Australian Addiction Reptiles. And Vagonbrei is a male, Castiana is a female. And so she's a little bit bigger than him, but they're the same age. He's a little bit darker than her, and he's just got blacker blacks, and hers are a little bit more faded. I can tell them apart very easily by their pattern differences, and also he has a completely different head pattern than she does. She has a little black dot on the tan right on top of her head, and so sometimes I call her Dot as a nickname. Vagonbrei does not have any black dots on his forehead. He just has a regular old head stamp. And as you can see, like I said before, they aren't a snake that is really averse to being touched or handled, but they're not necessarily going to seek that out. He crawled out onto me just as a means to get out of his habitat and get to somewhere else. So he's not freaking out because I'm touching him. He's okay with it, but he's not just going to sit here on me by his own free choice. He wants to go and do other things and explore around with Castiana, his sister. And this is one of the only pairs of snakes that I still have cohabbed in a big enclosure together. I did a cohabitation behavioral study many, many years ago, and I had many pairs of snakes together, and I was observing the amount of time they chose to spend in the same locations versus apart, and I was observing some of their other behavior. These two are still together, even though I've separated all of my other cohabbed pairs, except for I do have one other pair of carpet pythons that is still together, Spike and Drusilla. But Castiana and Vagonbrei are my other pair that are still together, just because they haven't exhibited any behavior that indicates to me that they would do better separated. Some of the snakes I separated did indicate to me it was time to put them in their own habitats. So let's move on, because here comes one of my Morelia Bredli right on the other side of the camera. So I'll get a hold of him and I will introduce you to him, although he's a snake that you guys already know from other videos. Okay guys, this is Boreth. He is one of my Morelia Bredli. He's a stonewashed male. He came from Ralph Polinsky. He was hatched in 2017, but he actually didn't arrive here with me until 2019. He's awesome at target training. He's done target training not only pretty much in every room here at home, but also at our veterinarian's office. And I presented a paper about his training and his target training abilities to the Animal Behavior Management Association's conference last year or the year before. And I did a lecture at the conference about him and about my work with him. There's many videos that he has been in. So not only are Morelia Bredli my very favorite species of snake, he is one of my very favorite snakes here. And this is his enclosure behind me. He came out of his enclosure. Actually, he hasn't been in his enclosure for quite some time. He's one of the ones that gets the privilege of being loose a lot. But you can see he's not trying to get back into his enclosure. He's trying to get on this perch that I have next to the enclosure because he just wants to explore. He just woke up. He was sleeping all day in this room up high on a shelf I have near the ceiling. He wasn't sleeping in his enclosure, and he just woke up a few minutes ago and he started cruising around the room. And so I just took this as an opportunity to show him to you. The stonewashed pattern on Morelia Bredli just means that the tan saddles that they normally have are more washed out and less defined. There's more of them congregated closer together, and they don't have just the definition that the normal pattern ones do. And you'll also notice that the belly of the stonewashed is pretty much all white. So it's a form of piebaldism, but you're only going to see the white on the belly. So I messed with him enough now that he's going back into his enclosure. He is not a snake that just wants to hang out with me. He's totally fine with me picking him up and being around me. And often when I'm working, he'll crawl across my desk and crawl across me, but it's only on his way to do something else. He is a roamer big time. He has made laps and laps and laps around this house all night long until he finally puts himself to bed. So he just went up there because he was tired of me holding him, and I never force them to stay with me again unless it's an emergency. So he is just going to hang out here and decide where he wants to go next. But he basically travels so much and exercises so much when he is awake at night that I can't imagine not giving him that opportunity and keeping him confined in an enclosure, because he has so much energy to expend. And I just love him. I enjoy watching him roam around. I enjoy watching him climb. I enjoy watching him just choosing to do activities all night long while I'm working. It's really special to be able to do that and to have him not be afraid of me and to just be himself in the room while I'm working. Okay, if you don't recognize this snake, you haven't been watching my channel long enough. This is Ceti, TC for short. He is our super dwarf reticulated python. He was hatched in 2019. So what does that make him? 3 years old. He's going to be 4 years old this year. He weighs 950 grams last time I weighed him, which was about a month ago. And he's just over 4 feet long. He's been out already for a couple of hours. He's already been in my office, which is a different room from the one he's in now. And I could tell that, see, he irritates the other snakes. So those other snakes are out roaming and they're minding their own business. But TC will go up to the other snakes and he'll tongue flick at them and he'll crawl over them and he'll just be nosy about them. And I'm not sure if that's curiosity or something else. But he's that way with me too. And I think that's just the nature of these super dwarves. But I think it irritates the other snakes because sometimes they will be resting quietly somewhere or draped somewhere, and he will go up to them and crawl on them and tongue flick at them. And I notice that they move to another location, and then sometimes he'll go over there and sniff them in the new location and they'll move. So just to avoid him bothering those carpet pythons that are out in the other room, I brought him in here. And so TC can climb on this activity station in this room, and we'll see how long he stays in here. But he usually doesn't stay necessarily in one room. I will find him coming down the hall, coming into my office, going into the kitchen. He just thinks he owns the whole house. And he doesn't get as much freedom as the Bredl do because he's just not as trustworthy to stay out of things that he shouldn't get into. And just like he bugs the other snakes, he bugs the dogs. And I don't want a confrontation or an accident or anything to happen, so I monitor him more closely. And he does go up into an exercise tent or back into his enclosure if I'm not here to watch him. So if I go to bed or if I'm out with the horses, he has to be contained somewhere. Sometimes I'll just shut the door to a room and make sure the door's blocked underneath so he can't get out. And I'll let him explore a whole room. But when I'm here, I let him go where he wants because I'm able to watch him. Okay guys, this is my Morelia Bredl Sunspear, and as you can see, she's just out exploring. And she is on the outside of an exercise tent. She's not in an exercise tent. And she's probably wondering why the heck I am bugging her and picking her up. This is my other very favorite snake, along with Boreth. She also came from Ralph Polinsky. She is also a 2017 baby. I got her in 2019. She's also very good at target training. And it took her a little bit longer to learn that than Boreth, and it took her a little bit longer to decide that she enjoyed being loose. But I actually have not confined her to her enclosure since before Halloween, and this is February, almost February 2nd. And she's very responsible and very savvy about roaming around my office and our house, and I have absolutely zero issues with her. If I have to contain her due to something else that's going on, like she put herself in this exercise tent last night, and she slept in that exercise tent all night with the door open. I didn't shut it when I went to bed, and she was still there when I got up today. And she's just a fantastic snake, and I can't say enough about how much I love Morelia Bredl. But I do want you to understand that the freedom these two particular snakes have is something that we have been developing as a family since 2019. And this is 2023. So we're talking going on 4 years that we have evolved our relationship to the point where just a few months ago, I started experimenting with leaving them out most of the time to see how they would adapt to that. And these two particular snakes are just very savvy about interacting with us, interacting with and or avoiding the dogs, not going into places where they shouldn't be, not being flighty or scared of things, not interfering with our normal work in my office or our house, or like when we're feeding dogs or doing dishes, or they do their own thing, and they seem to keep to safe places. Now, I do have more Morelia Bredl than this, and these are the only two that are allowed this privilege. They're the only two snakes in our whole snake family that are allowed this privilege and this much freedom, and I keep a diary of it. It's sort of a little behavior experiment that I have going on. I also want you to remember that we are at an animal sanctuary, and somebody is literally here 24/7. There is never a time when someone is not here. And so even though these snakes are not monitored 24/7 with eyes directly on them, someone is here. And someone is always in the office or in the kitchen area or in the laundry area or out in the barn, or somebody is here all the time, and we always know where these snakes are. So I don't recommend that you do this in a normal home, but I do think that if you work from home or during those times when you are home and you're in a room and you're doing activities, and you can let your snake roam if your snake chooses to come out on their own, and if your snake is not frightened of you and not flighty, they're comfortable and relaxed with this type of interaction, I think it's a good way to give them exercise. Or at the very least, if they come out of their enclosure, put them in an exercise tent so that it's something different for them and they're getting some mental stimulation and some physical exercise moving around the tent. So I know I have at least one more snake that's out across my office, so I'm gonna shut this off. We're gonna leave Sunspear to do whatever Sunspear's doing, and we'll check on that other snake. Okay guys, this is Betty. Many of you know her as our older Python Regius. She's 24 to 25 years old. She has been coming out on a regular basis almost every night. and she can't ever decide whether she wants to go down or up. And she often spends a lot of time figuring out how she wants to exit her enclosure. And then once she does exit her enclosure, I have to keep a really close eye on her, because once she's out, she moves pretty fast. And I think I know where she is, and I turn my back for a minute, and the next thing I know, she's in a completely different room somewhere. But she usually does take a very long time to figure out how she wants to get out. She'll like look at the floor, then she'll climb up, and I think that she really wants to go up, but it takes her a while to figure out that she just can't maybe climb straight up, and she needs to go down and make her way up some other way. But I have found her on top of these enclosures, on top of some of our other enclosures, on top of our climbing space. I found her up very high on storage shelves, but I've also found her as low as she can go, which is basically under our refrigerator. So she's funny because she not only goes up very high, but she also goes down to the ground. And then it's just funny how long it takes her before she actually exits the enclosure. She does so much approach and retreat at her door, and then once she's out, she's totally bold and all over the place. So in just a minute here, she's going to do something really funny that I've never seen before, but I'm going to just let you watch. She hits herself in the face with her tail, and it looks like startles herself. And it was just funny to see, because I had nothing to do with it. That was all her. So here I am in my office space. I have had several office spaces throughout the years, and even through this last year. I had an office space, sorry Betty, on the other side of these enclosures, and I had an office space in the other room. And I really, for some reason, just like to sit in this space. So this is the office space I use most of the time. And this is Betty, who finally figured out that she had to come down in order to go up. So she came down out of her enclosure and got down on the floor. And I took that as an opportunity to pick her up to make this video. This is gonna have to be our final snake for this week, or this video is gonna be hours and hours long. Now, Betty's very special. Of course, if you follow the channel and you've watched the Royals at the Ranch series, you know that she was relinquished to us in February of 2022. And we were told at that time she was 23 years old. I think in the last video she was in, I said she was 25. I guess that would make her only 24 if she was 23 when she was relinquished a year ago. But the truth is, those people weren't quite sure how old she is. So I am not exactly sure how old she is. But she's in her early to mid 20s. And she didn't eat. She wasn't eating before she got relinquished. When she got here, of course, we took her to our vet for a routine wellness exam and routine testing to include nidovirus testing, etc., fecal checks, all of the intake stuff that we normally do with snakes that come in. And she was then in quarantine. All of her wellness checks and lab results came back just fine. There's nothing wrong with her. The vet said that she was a little plump. Where's your head, Betty? People want to see you. So there was really no rush to try to get her on food. The people that relinquished her said she hadn't eaten for them since like October or November 2021. She got here in February of 2022. She was chunky. I didn't even try to feed her until several months after she'd been here, and she just really wasn't interested in food. So what I watched for with her over all of last year was just a behavior change, something that she wasn't doing normally, that might have been an indication that maybe she was hunting, or, you know, that she was actually hungry. And it was a very subtle behavior change. And I offered her food and she ate. So she's eaten several times since then. She is eating frozen thawed here. She had only ever eaten live her whole life at this previous home, but I never offer live here. And she is eating frozen thawed. So she's doing fine. I'm not feeding her that often. My vet's not sure that we need to be feeding an almost 25-year-old royal python that often, because probably their metabolism is slow, although she gets tons of exercise. She wants out so much. It's been almost nightly that she wants to come out and cruise around. And she cruises far, and she cruises a lot faster than you would think a snake this size would be able to cruise. So I really have to keep an eye on her, and I usually end up having to put her into an exercise tent because I just can't keep track of her. And like is typical of Python regius, once she gets on the ground, she gets into places where I can't see her, and I don't necessarily want her to be like under the refrigerator. So she gets to roam free as long as I can watch her, and then she usually ends up in an exercise tent, which is where I'm going to put her now. But I thought you might enjoy seeing Betty. She's not happy that I'm holding her. She wants to free roam, and I can tell because she's coiling tightly around my arm and she's trying to get down. So even though it appears that she's sitting here quietly, her body language and the tension in her body is telling me that she does not want me holding her. She wants me to put her down. So I'm going to go put her in an exercise tent, and I'll be right back and we will close out this episode. I just keep taking videos. You guys, this is what I spend all night doing. Every time I say, okay, I'm finished, I'm gonna go ahead and edit this video and upload it, then the snakes do something else that I think is so cool, which is basically just being snakes and being here and being visible, where I can see them and enjoy the things that they're doing, which at this time of night, which is the middle of the night, is just climbing around and being Morelia Bredl, which I just love so much. I love that they are just in my house, hanging out with me in my workspace, doing things that they like to do, and that they're not afraid of me, and I get to watch them climbing and roaming around. It's just crazy that I get so excited about that, but I do. Hi, Sunspear. I know. Am I bugging you? You want me to leave you alone? I love you. You're the best snake. You and Boreth. Tied for the best snakes. Okay, I have to get back to work. Boreth, where are you going? Are you going into Betty's enclosure? Betty probably won't appreciate your scent in her enclosure. That's the wrong side. The other side's the one that's open. Maybe other snakes don't like you going in their enclosures, and you should just keep to yourself. Don't knock anything off that table. You're such a good boy, and you're very fit. He's giving you a good opportunity to see how that stone washed pattern changes from front to back. So the saddles do become more pronounced the further back on the snake you get. There's more black surrounding the saddles, and they're just more defined with thicker black, and you've got a darker tail. So this is a normal colored Bredl, but it's a stone washed pattern. Oh, and he's being so good. Look, we can see the pattern on his neck up close now. So here's the difference. This is the head and neck pattern of a normal colored but stone washed pattern Morelia Bredl. And see how those saddles just kind of bleed into each other, and they're not well defined. They're smaller than on a normal Bredl pattern, and they don't have black around them. But then as we travel down the body, those saddles get more pronounced. They get bigger. And then as we get all the way to the mid section of the body and then towards the tail, we get more black pigmentation. We get black borders around those tan saddles, and those saddles are more pronounced. And then if we go all the way down to the tip of the tail, the saddles go almost around the entire diameter of the snake, and the tail itself has tons and tons of black pigment on it. I just love, look at that. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I love these snakes so much that if this wasn't my profession, if I wasn't studying snake behavior, and I was just having one type of snake as a pet, it would absolutely be Bredl's pythons. I would probably still have a lot of them, but I might not have any other species of snakes. I love these guys. Okay, I'm done now. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. We're gonna close out the episode with Boreth because he made his way in here to my office and he was crawling across my rolly trash can that I use for office trash, and he was climbing on the enclosures next to me, and then he started climbing across to my desk. And this is what I was saying earlier. He will climb on me and he'll climb across my desk and he will get right in the middle of what I'm doing, but he doesn't stay. It's not like he just wants to sit here and hang out with me. It's just a means to get somewhere else that he wants to be. And he loves to climb. And like I said, he'll make laps and laps around this house several times throughout the night while I'm working all night. And so this will probably not be the only time tonight he crawls across my computer. He literally will just go the same route over and over and over again. And sometimes he goes into other snakes' enclosures when they're open. So like TC's enclosure and Sunspear's enclosure and the inland carpet python's enclosure are all empty right now because they're out. And it is highly likely that he's already been in all those enclosures and checked them out. So that's what my evening is usually like. Once the snakes wake up, I'm sitting here working, but I'm also watching snakes and I'm shooting videos. And then I take a couple of hours late evening to go out and do our last check of the horses and feed the horses and do barn chores. And then I come back in and I spend time working and watching the snakes until I go to bed around 5 a.m. Sometimes it's 4 a.m., sometimes it's 6 a.m., but average is 5 a.m. And that's Colorado time, so mountain time. And then I usually get up between 11 a.m. and noon. So thank you for joining me this week for our Thursday video. And until next time, everybody please remember to always be kind and love your animals.